Hi guys, welcome back to ToK Today. Now today's video comes in response to the first video that I made, 5 essential tips on marking the ToK Draft Essay. The feedback was that people wanted more content-based assessment. We're all starting at different points on our ToK journey, so today I'll focus more on the actual marking of the ToK Draft Essay. Now, I can't replicate a Category 2 IB workshop in 5 minutes on video, and neither would you want me to replicate a Category 2 IB workshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run down the big things that I look for when I look at a ToK Draft Essay in terms of the content. So just the big hitting things. But before I get to that, I'm going to shamelessly beg if you could give me a like or a subscribe or a comment. It would mean so much to me, and it's free to you, and it'd be absolutely great to help to continue to make this ToK free learning resource. Okay, let's get into those tips. So the first thing to look for is the focus of the essay on knowledge arguments or on the real life situation? Most draft essays that I've seen have far too much RLS content, real life situation content. They're overly descriptive of the examples used, and they dedicate far too many words to the RLS. This is entirely understandable. Most DP students have probably spent most of their educational career being assessed on the accuracy of their understanding of content. In ToK, we're asking them to do something a little different. We're asking them to look at the construction of that content, and that's a leap that many students find difficult to make. We can use the rough 80-20 rule here, 80% knowledge to 20% RLS description. I usually ask students to highlight knowledge and RLS content in different colours on their draft, just to give them a good visual representation of the proportions of knowledge arguments versus RLS content. The second thing to look for is, are the definitions of concepts and key terms, or the explanations of concepts and key terms, consistent throughout the essay? Now, most students realise that the definition of concepts and terms is key to being able to write the ToK essay. However, students will often change their definitions or even forget about them during the writing of the essay. Now, changing definitions can be a really strong evaluation point if they find that an earlier definition was insufficient, but this must be done explicitly and shown to be grounded in the exploration of the prescribed title. Recent examiners' reports have advised that students define terms within each AOK rather than at the beginning of the essay. And this is a really good way of reducing the risk of inconsistency in definitions within the essay. Okay. The third thing that I sort of try to do is a rough band placement of the essay, roughly placing it in one of the ToK assessment rubric bands. Now, the assessment rubric has 5 bands or levels, and IB have provided characteristics for each band at the bottom of the essay. But I think we can consider broadly what we'll find in each essay band, and I call this the assessment pyramid. So we start here in the bottom 2 bands, and essentially here we've got lots of RLS description and very, very little ToK. Typically there might be some sort of anecdotal stuff there and just lots of description of real life situations. In band number 2, we still have lots of RLS, maybe 50% RLS, 60% RLS, but we do also have some ToK here, and this is generally unsupported ToK. So there might be some ToK concepts, there might be some acknowledgement of areas of knowledge, or even some knowledge claims and knowledge arguments, but not necessarily linked particularly well to the RLS. It's unsupported. In band 3, 5 to 6 marks, we've got mainly ToK at this point. We have discussions about knowledge and a lot less RLS. And we've got some knowledge arguments being made, but there's little analysis of those knowledge arguments. So knowledge arguments and counter-arguments or counterclaims would be stated, but they're not particularly analysed or evaluated. There may be some RLS there, which is sort of linked, but very little analysis of the points. And once we get into band 4, 7 to 8 marks, we're seeing things which are really good ToK essays here. So we've got knowledge arguments, counter arguments, points being made. We have some analysis, some evaluation. It's starting to show some nuance. It's a good essay. And we're definitely in the 80 to 20% knowledge to RLS ratios. And then finally, obviously in band 5, 9 to 10 marks, we're seeing very cogent and coherent essays here. There's a lot of knowledge arguments, a lot of analysis, there are evaluations, there may even be implications in this band as well. So what I try to do is quickly read through the essay and then try to place it within one of these rough bands, and then a more detailed reading to see if my placement is correct. It sort of helps me to clarify where things should be in my head. Now I know that what I've presented is just a further précis of the assessment rubric, but sometimes there's a wooden trees problem, if you know what I mean. And this is just my attempt to see the wood rather than the trees. On to tip number 4, signposting and LTQ. LTQ means link to the question. So sometimes the draft essays which can come in can be super confusing. There are like concepts and AOKs and knowledge arguments and RLSs all mixed together. They're sometimes contradictory. They're often incoherent. And if they're confusing for me as the teacher of the student, then imagine what they're like for the examiner. Now, a simple way to start to unravel all of that and to help the student to start thinking clearly and to structure their essay is to ask them to signpost the key elements of the essay. So I asked them to add sentences which show me where the main elements are. So for example, those sentences could be, my knowledge claim in AOK history is, my knowledge argument in AOK natural sciences is. This is supported by RLS. An evaluation of this argument is, or an evaluation point could be. And the most important sentence for them to add, at the end of each paragraph, I asked them to add the sentence linking back to the prescribed title, this means that. Or linking back to the prescribed title just shows that. So what this signposting does is it just helps the students to work out where the elements of their essay is, and it also helps the teacher and most importantly the examiner to find where those main elements are. By signposting and explicitly linking back to the question, it means that there's very little risk of that essay being placed in the lower 2 bands. So that ensures that the student's going to have the basic elements to get 4 out of 10 on the essay, and that means that they will pass ToK. So it takes away the worry from you as a teacher and the worry from the student and so on and so on. It may be clunky, but it really helps the examiners who are serially reading many essays written in a range of different styles of varying quality, and the examiners are looking to award points, and if they see stuff signposted, it's easier for them to award that content in the essay. Now, obviously the essays still have to be coherent and accurate and correct. Signposting on its own doesn't do it, and obviously it's a little clunky, but for some students, they signpost at the first draft stage, and then as they work on their essay after draft feedback, they can take the signposting away. So it's a bit like the stabilizers on a kid's bike. As they get better, they don't need the signposting. Okay, my 5th and final tip is teamwork. Assessing ToK essays is no easy task, not for anyone. It's complicated for absolutely everybody. I've seen senior examiners significantly disagreeing over the marks awarded to the same essay. So it's important to remember that no ToK teacher is on their own. Alright, work with other ToK teachers either in your school or in your local ToK network, and if you're the sole teacher of ToK in your school and there's no local ToK network, set one up, but you can get in touch with other DP schools. I've always found colleagues in other schools to be very generous and welcoming, so you can work in collaboration with other ToK teachers to help you to problem solve, to moderate, to standardize. You can pick apart exemplars, you can share previously assessed essays, and it will give you a good idea of where essays should stand. Now, no one expects you to have all of the answers. It's a synergistic process in which collaboration leads to a greater understanding in the group as a whole. So on that collaborative working together point, I'm going to end the video. I'm going to thank you for watching today, and if you could give me a like or a subscribe, I'd be super happy. I'm going to wish you a ToK-tastic day, enjoy the teaching and enjoy the marking of those draft essays. Bye.